everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Foxy and this is Foxy Books and Planning. Today, since this is the week of the Game of Thrones premiere, I wanted to do a quick plan with me for the Game of Thrones kits. So in my sticker organization video, I actually showed one of my kits that I have for Game of Thrones. I currently have two. One of them came in, it might have been. So I have this one from Glam Planner that's actually from the last season premiere, from the season 7 premiere. 7 premiere, because the season is 8. And I bought it after the season ended and during one of her clearance sales, and have been saving it for this new season. So there's that one. It's a really nice kit. I'm not normally a big fan of Glam Planner, but I really liked this kit considering that it was Game of Thrones. It wasn't like crazy out there Game of Thrones, and it was actually a really nice muted kit. It's all blues and grays, which would actually be perfect for this season since winter has come and we're fighting the battle or the war to come. Finally, this might actually be a good kit to use for this week. The other kit is from Sticker Gurus. This was her Game of Thrones kit, or one of her Game of Thrones kits that she put out for the new season that starts on Sunday. And I got it with the silver foil, so all of the boxes are sparkly. And this one was just, I wanted kits to mark the beginning and the end of the series. And I do have one more kit coming. I do have the Keytown Legendary kit coming for that as well, which I will probably use at a later point in time when I do a rewatch of the entire season, once it's all aired. But yeah, so those are the two kits. I think I'm going to do this one for this week and this one for the finale, because so this one is Winter is Here, and then this one doesn't have any of that quoting. So, and it'll be interesting to see how the series turns out, and I'll have the nice Game of the Throne Room double box for the series finale. So, I'm going to put this guy back in my little book of kits. Also, I'm not sure if anybody saw it or not, but there was a guy who figured out that Avengers Endgame and the Battle of Winterfell episode of Game of Thrones are going to happen on the same weekend, and that it's probably going to be the largest number of fictional character deaths in a single 48-hour time period, which I thought was absolutely hysterical that someone actually sat down and went, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people crying in a corner that weekend. But anyway, so let's get started. I have a wee dram to help, and let's get started. So I got into Game of Thrones in a really weird way. For me, I didn't start off watching it initially because I didn't have an HBO subscription. I had never read the books. I had never heard of the books. It was not something I was terribly interested in. So I just ignored it. And a couple of, or no, I may, because 8, I would have been in college at that point, and I had access to HBO, but I had no desire because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why everyone was why people were freaking out about it. And I had never read the books, and I've always been a staunch read the book, then watch the media person. But what happened was a couple of years later, I started watching it with one of my friends, where we sat down, we started watching episodes together just to kind of pass time, and I got really into it. And then when I did a summer abroad, I ended up watching 4 episodes on my flight to London, which was the most awkward thing ever because I had an aisle seat. And there were a couple of kids sitting diagonally behind me in the plane so they could see the screen that I was watching. And it's like, yeah, I'm just sitting here watching Jon Snow and Rose get it on. Totally normal, totally casual. This happens every day. And yeah, it was super weird and super awkward, but I made it to the halfway point of season 3. The climb episode. And after that, I completely stopped watching. I completely lost interest. I completely lost touch. For a while. And then I started working, being an adult. And one of my coworkers was really into Game of Thrones. She's read all of the books, watched the whole show, and she was really into it. And she was trying to get other people into it. So I would go over to her house for craft night, and she and her friend, because we did it with a couple of her friends, and her friends were working through How I Met Your Mother. So we would watch How I Met Your Mother while we sewed, knitted, crocheted, etc. until the friend left, and then I would stay and watch an episode of Game of Thrones. And so with that, I got most of the way through seasons 4 and 5. 3, 4, and 5. And then season 6 started. So I actually paid for an HBO, or I didn't pay. I waited until the season 6 was over. And, no, did I? No. Correction. I got my HBO subscription, and I watched season 6 as it aired. Which was a big thing for me, because that was the first time I had ever watched a season of any kind of premium television as it aired. Because most of the time when I was a kid, my parents didn't pay for those channels. Not that I would have been allowed to watch it anyway. So, I was really excited for it. I made it all the way through season 6. And I was surprised by how much I actually loved it. And at that point, I was like, okay, now that I've seen season 6, I can't remember how we got to season 6. So I went through and rewatched the entire series. Starts on the 8th. Okay, so he's not going to be on tomorrow. Oh, sorry. Completely separate thing. But anyway. So, where was I? So, season 6 is over. I sit down and I rewatch the entirety of the Game of Thrones from the beginning. Remember why I stopped watching, because personally, I can't. Dang it. Mud trucker. I don't think I can peel this up, can I? Nope. Fudge. Well, those numbers failed. Let's find some more numbers. But, so, I watched all the way through, remembered why I had stopped watching in the first place, because personally, I cannot stand young Sansa. She drives me literally up a wall. Those will work. But I stuck it out and was like, look, I've got this HBO subscription. I need to just sit down and rewatch it all. So I did that. And after that, while I was waiting for season 7, I read the first book. And personally, as some of you who are frequenters to my channel know, I did it again. God damn it. Well, good thing I have 2 sets of identical numbers. Anyway. So, I tried reading the first book in the actual series. because I was curious about how different the book was from the show. And my friend who had gotten me into watching it was really pushing for me and some of the other girls in the office to sit down and actually read the books. Because she preferred the books, it's perfectly fine. And it took me 2 years to finish the first book, reading off and on. It did not speak to me. I don't particularly care for George R.R. Martin's writing style. It is not my favorite epic fantasy. I understand why he did what he did, because if you had it from one person's perspective, you wouldn't see the vast sprawling world he created, and I get it. Like, I understand the way he structured his books, but that, to me, the way he did it and the level of attention you have to have while you read is just something that I am not up for, especially with that long of a book, because I did it as an audiobook because at that point, I didn't have a whole lot of free time to read, but I was reading books while I was at work, or I was listening to books while I was at work, and it was really hard to listen to that particular book while I was trying to work. But I did actually end up finishing the first book. I haven't continued with the rest of the series. I do have them in paperback form, and I'll get to them at some point. It's just not something I'm looking forward to doing. Personally, I much prefer just the television show. And that might sound weird coming from someone who really likes books like the Stormlight Archives, but to me, it's like comparing apples and oranges. It's just Sanderson and George R.R. Martin are two completely different writers with two completely different aesthetics, especially when it comes to writing viewpoints, because like George R.R. Martin, everything is sort of from a third-person omniscient focused on a particular character. No, I take that back. It is from a character's point of view. See, it's been a while since I finished this book, and I barely remember. But I much prefer the way Brandon Sanderson does it, where there are a lot of different viewpoints, but they're all still third-person viewpoints. So you can still see all of the characters and still get in their heads without the like, and now we're in Catelyn's head, and now we're in Ned's head, and now we're in Daenerys' head. Because that jarred me a lot, personally. But anyway, so season 7 came. I stayed up every Sunday, watched season 7. My boyfriend thought I had lost my dang mind. Because I was just like, I'm sitting, I know you're going to bed, honey. I'm going to be here. I'm going to read, I'm going to watch the show. It's going to be awesome. And then I will come to bed at some point. And he was just kind of like, okay, I will see you when you come to bed. And I thought season 7 was great. And whatnot. So for the new season, I am super excited because I've been going down the rabbit hole of all the great theory channels on YouTube. So like Alt Control X, The Order of the Green Hand, etc., who specialize in combing through Game of Thrones for theories and other assorted things. And I really appreciate the level of detail, especially like The Order of the Green Hand. They have some videos where I'm like, I feel like I really love the detail they go into, but some of their theories I'm just like, okay. Because I haven't read the books, and like they'll be like, in Tyrion's point of view chapter in this chapter blank in book this, he says this and it means this. I'm just like, whoa. I've never gone into any book in that much detail. Not even when I took English. But notwithstanding, I really love the material. It's really interesting to see what other people's theories are. And I am really curious to see how this season ends. Especially because we're finally going to get the who's going to sit on the Iron Throne finally. and all of the wrapping up things. Because I'm really excited to figure out how it ends, because it feels like we've spent a large chunk of our lives watching this show, wondering how it's going to end and what the twists are going to be and what the reveals are going to be. And I just can't wait for those to come. I'm wondering if I should take a knife and cut this beautiful dragon and gouache down a little bit so I can put it on the top. We'll see. That might be a final flourish, because I've been trying to figure out what to do with bottom washi for a while. But anyway, so I'm really excited. I can't wait to see how the story ends. I can't wait to see, like, who ends up with whom, because I am definitely one of those people where I'm like, I ship Brienne and Tormund. I really don't want Jon Snow to end up with anybody. I think him and Daenerys are kind of a terrible idea. But if that's what they want, that's what they want. I mean, I could kind of see it coming. I'm just kind of like, this kind of sucks. Because, like, I was a big Jon and Rose shipper. Like, Rose. Like, they were, like, the best couple in all of Game of Thrones. Favorite characters, let's see. I think my favorite characters are probably Tyrion, which I know is, like, someone's going to say, but everybody likes Tyrion. That's because Tyrion's an awesome character. Peter Dinklage is amazeballs. And I love his character. I love his character's arc. And it's him and, shoot, I had one more. I guess Tormund is probably my other favorite character, because he's just loud and brash and in everybody's faces all of the time. And like I said, I really want to see him end up with Brienne of Tarth, because as much as people are like, that pairing is laughable, I'm like, if any man looks at you the way Tormund did when he was eating that chicken with Brienne, that tells you all you need to know, and you should probably keep that man for the rest of your life. But that is just me. My little marquee for the premiere. Let's see. What else? Sorry if you can hear my chair creaking. So I have to wait till the end. All right, I'm gonna get Kniff to see if I can cut this washi down and be right back. All right, I have obtained a Kniff. I have obtained my handy dandy ruler, and let's see. This might actually work better with scissors, but I guess we'll find out. Actually, I might try this with scissors since I'm using this piece. Let's see. Let's see how that works, guys. Would you look at that? Huzzah. So pretty. So pretty. Crafting with Foxy. Don't mind me. That didn't quite work. Use your brain, woman. There we go. So let's see. Game of Thrones other stuff. Let's see. Favorite house. Let me talk about that. So my personal favorite house in Game of Thrones is actually the Tyrells. As I'm not really a big northern person. I mean, if I had to pick a northern house, I would say Mormont probably. Just because Lady Lyanna Mormont is like to die for. But in general, I feel like I identify more with House Tyrell. Just because their whole espionage kind of backward, or not backward, their reliance on cleverness as opposed to just brute force or a great name. Though Tyrell is kind of a great name. But like, shit. That's okay. I overshot this anyway. I'm just gonna peel that off. But yeah, I like the Tyrells. I definitely think Lady Olenna Tyrell is like the best character of all time. Because she's not only clever, but she's always like 5 to 10 moves ahead of everyone. Except Cersei at the end. Which, I mean, at that point, when Cersei's just gone off the deep end, how can anybody really be 5 moves ahead of you? You've just become so unpredictable at that point that it's just like, why are we even trying? Just fold the excess over. But yeah, I definitely love House Tyrell. I feel like a Hufflepuff at this point with Game of Thrones merch, because it's like all the Game of Thrones merch is like Stark, Targaryen, Lannister. I'm like, I just want some Tyrell merch over here. Can I just get like a golden rose on a green sweatshirt? That'd be great. Rep my dead house. And yeah, I mean, like, where's all the Lady Mormont merch, guys? She is literally the most amazing person in the entire show, and she has no merch. What the heck? I'm just gonna fill that little gap in. Don't mind me as I arts and crafts my way through sparkly bottom washi. But hey, I mean, it's rough, but it looks damn cool. And so freaking sparkly. And I've actually found a way to use bottom washi. It's a miracle. Because normally I would just save this and never ever use it. Let's see, what else do we have? We don't have anything on Saturday. Oh. With that, those are Nate's teaching. Alright. that open. I'll put that there. All right, let's do some deco. Throwing out a nice teal glitter washi. And then let's do some stuff. Bam. Tyrell's definitely my favorite house. I was so gutted when they were all violently murdered by Cersei / Jaime. Anywho. So there's that. My theories on how it'll end. I have a feeling that based on the promos we've seen and the digging that people have done and the emphasis people have put, or George and the showrunners have put on certain characters, like most people, I'm pretty sure Jon is going to end up on the Iron Throne. The question just becomes, how exactly is he going to come to the Iron Throne, and how many main characters are going to die with him? I'm fairly certain that Sansa's going to live, especially because, shoot, what's her name? The young woman who plays Sansa, whose name's escaping me right now. She has actually said that the producers gifted her with the storyboard of their favorite Sansa scene as a parting gift for finishing the show. And according to her, it's just hanging up in her house. And the way that was explained, and she's like, yeah, it's just hanging in my house. No one's realized what it is. And it was a really sweet gesture. Is I have a feeling that document or that picture is probably because Sansa survives and probably becomes the Wardeness of the North, or at least that's what I'm going with, because as the article I read pointed out, why in the world would you provide somebody with a memorial of their death scene and then have them hang it up in their house with nobody realizing what it is? So I'm gonna go with Sansa probably survives, but we'll see. It's still up in the air right now. No one is safe. No one is ever safe in Game of Thrones. I mean, for all we know, everyone's dead, and it's just some old Tarly left telling older Sam what's happened. Like, yeah, we tried to fight the Night King. We lost. We're all that's left. We're hiding on an island somewhere. Haha! Just looking for one of these. Oh shoot. If we're not over my hydro tracker, it'll have to go down here. Oh no. Yeah, my hydro tracker will need to go down here. Oh well. But yeah, so Sansa I'm pretty sure is going to survive. Jon Snow I'm very certain is going to survive, just because he's basically the main character of the show, if not the hero, along with Daenerys. And you know, the whole ice and fire. I mean, Missandei literally told us last season, I have brought fire together with ice and everything will be good. It's just like, okay. And we've finally hit on a Song of Ice and Fire. We've got a bastard Targaryen from the north and a trueborn Targaryen with dragons. So fire, ice, that seems to work. Arya, I'm not certain. I'm not certain Arya is even still alive. Personally, I have a feeling that she may be a faceless man, but I don't have anything to substantiate other than her ability to change faces when she gets back to Westeros. because at least from my understanding of the show, like I said, I haven't gotten to that part in the books, and it will probably be a very long time before I actually commit that much time to another book series, is that it looks like she survives her battle with the waif, but the way that she acts is just not quite Arya. That there's definitely a sinister edge to how she acts now, and how she words how she presents herself, because she's much more of a much heavier on the trained killer and much less on the much less of the Arya that at least I remember from the earlier parts of the book. Now maybe that's just that we didn't see so much of her time in Westeros, or not Westeros, Essos, in the House of Black and White, because we definitely do get a decent amount of her in season 6, where she definitely feels like an older version of the Arya we met at the beginning. But the Arya at the beginning of the season and the Arya at the end of the season are very different. At least to me. And maybe that I'm just overthinking it, because I've watched so many theory videos that I have a tin hat on. Or, yeah, a tinfoil hat on at this point. But regardless, I'm fairly certain Arya is not going to survive. I'm fairly certain that Grey Worm and Jorah Mormont and Cersei Lannister aren't going to survive. If Cersei survives, I might just write like a strongly worded letter to the producers and be like, seriously guys, of all the people who get to survive, you saved this horrible woman that everyone hates. Not as much as we hated Joffrey, but everyone hates. And they'll probably be like, well, that's not what we meant. Or, that's not what George had in mind. It's just like, it's going to end how it's going to end. I just want to see Cersei die. And I think, personally, that it would be the most amazing thing ever for Jaime to be the one who kills her. And yes, I know everybody thinks it's Tyrion because of the Maggie the Frog prophecy, but if you actually pay attention, Cersei is the firstborn of the twins. So Jaime is technically also a younger brother who could potentially murder Cersei. Because as much as he loves her, he knows that she has gone way too far. Way too far. And that at some point, someone is going to have to stop her, and no one else can get close enough to stop her. Because, like, she doesn't let Tyrion within, like, 5 feet of her. As you could see at the end of season 7 with the dragon pit scene. Other things, I'm 90% certain that the theory that Samwell Tarly is actually our narrator is going to be a Game of Thrones as like a history book, as a maester. At least I think that would be the coolest way to end it, is kind of have the last scene be an older Samwell Tarly finishing his book called A Song of Ice and Fire, and kind of like handing it over to be like, here is the compilation of my life's work. Here is the story I needed to tell about Jon Snow and the Dragon Queen. But who knows? That's how I really want it to end. I think it would be really cool, especially if the final scene is him like writing like the final sentence of like, Samwell Tarly lived to a ripe old age and wrote this book, and then closing the book and the title of the book being A Song of Ice and Fire, and then just kind of cutting to black at that point. But who knows how it will end. Though I will say, I will definitely link their channel below if you want to check them out. The Order of the Green Hand are great. They only do things based on the books, so they definitely have some videos where if you have only seen the show, that you're going to be like, who in the world are they talking about? What in the world are they talking about? But they have some really great theory videos and some really great rant videos. My favorites that they've done is they've done a whole series about why Catelyn Stark is the worst character of the whole book, all of the books. And it's like, you're just sitting there and like their first video is just her first point of view chapter. You're just kind of like, damn, she is a horrible person. And I mean, she's definitely an interesting character, but she was not one of my favorites, especially where she gets to the point where she becomes very much like character. Margaret Tudor, also known as the Red Queen, who was King Henry VII's mother. That's how she kind of feels to me, as like the very much a religious zealot, but in the terms of she's a religious zealot championing the cause of her son and spouting to anyone and everyone that the Lannisters are evil because the Lannisters tried to kill her children, which may or may not be actually true. Well, probably not true. It's probably Peter Baelish arranged to have Bran murdered on Cersei's orders. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I really enjoy their videos. There was one day at work I wasn't up for listening to a book, and I didn't have any music. So I ended up listening to their entire series about Ned and Ashara Dayne. For those of you who have only watched the show, Ashara Dayne is a character from the books who is the same generation as Ned Stark, Catelyn Stark, and Robert Baratheon, but she is from Dorne. She is from the House of Dayne, and she is the younger sister of Sir Arthur Dayne of the Kingsguard. And it is implied in the books that she and Ned were either married or had an affair during the beginning of Robert's rebellion. And the Order of the Green Hand's entire theory, which we'll have to wait for George R.R. Martin to actually finish the books to figure out if these theories are true or not, is that their entire theory is that Jon Snow is actually Ned Stark's bastard, or Ned Stark's true-born son by Ashara Dayne. And that the reason Catelyn hates him so much is that if Jon Snow can be proved legitimate, he outranks her oldest son, Robb, as heir to Winterfell. And they talk about the timelines in the books, and they lay everything out. And it's actually really thorough and really interesting, where they go, well, okay, so according to the timeline, Ned would be here, and Ashara is here, and this person is over here, and this person's over here. And it's meticulous, and they deliver it in such an interesting way that I found that argument really, really compelling. The whole thing about Jon's twin sister being the princess of the Free Folk seems a little iffy to me, but I haven't read that part of the book, so I'm not sure whether or not to believe that. There's also a secondary thing. So in the books, there is when Tyrion is going to Meereen to offer himself in service to Daenerys, he doesn't actually get captured by Jorah Mormont. He hitches a ride with these group of Westerosi, and one of them claims to be the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. He claims to be Aegon Targaryen, the baby of Rhaegar and Elia Martell, who was murdered by the Mountain during the sack of King's Landing. And with him, there's a hedge knight, an older woman who looks like she has given birth, but has purple eyes, and a couple of others of note. And they basically say, like, okay, so young Griff, which is what Aegon goes by to maintain his anonymity and avoid the assassins, is actually Lyanna and Rhaegar's child that was spirited away by Ned after Robert's rebellion in an effort to keep the child safe. And because they had, because Ashara had John and she couldn't go back to Winterfell because Eddard was now married to Catelyn, and Catelyn was having a child of her own, that Ed did a baby swap, so he swapped Lyanna's child, Aegon, for Jon Snow, takes Jon Snow in at Winterfell, and sends Ashara off with young Griff. And there's a whole subplot in the books where not Varys, I don't know. Obviously, I haven't read the books enough to speak to this, but there's a subplot involving young Griff where young Griff is also trying to appeal to Daenerys for support, but he also believes that he is the rightful king of rightful king of Westeros, and that his sister his aunt should bend the knee. But anyway, definitely say check them out if you are looking for some interesting theory videos. Control-Alt-X also has some really interesting videos. He hasn't posted as much lately, but he's definitely an interesting one. He was the original one that I found back before season 6 aired, where he has a really, really thorough video on R plus L equals J, which is the original theory that Jon is Rhaegar and Lyanna's child. And he has some other really good ones about, like, is Euron Greyjoy really Daario Naharis? And he has some really, really interesting videos. So I'll link him as well if you want to check him out below. So I think I've got most of what I want for this week done. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Comment down below about what you're most excited to see in the upcoming season of Game of Thrones. And with that, Vala Margulis, and have a good rest of your days, guys. I hope to see you again on my channel. Bye.